When I first played the Sega Saturn as a kid when it released, the first thing I noticed was a lack of sports primetime titles like we were used to on the Sega Genesis. Sega Sports became so popular during the 16-bit generation, people specifically bought the Genesis to have the best experience playing games like Madden NHL and RBI Baseball. This was unfortunately not the case with the Sega Saturn. Sure, at launch it boasted some pretty banger arcade titles like Virtual Cop, Daytona USA, and Virtual Fighter, but it lacked heavily in the sports department. And while Sega Sports definitely missed the ball in a lot of areas when it came to sports games on the Sega Saturn, there were still a lot of good, decent games that were published by Sega Sports. Sega Sports gets a pretty bad rap when it comes to the Sega Saturn, and sometimes it's certainly not justified, as we will see in this video. There are certainly some sports games on the Saturn worth playing, or owning, that played just as well, and if not better, than they did on the rival console PlayStation. Today, on this video, we will be talking about some of the best sports titles on the Sega Saturn. Keep in mind, some of this list is opinion-based, so stick around, and if there's one you feel I missed, you'll want to let me know in the comments section. But first, let's get into the best sports games on the Sega Saturn. NBA Jam Tournament Edition was ported to the Sega Saturn in 1995. Up until this point, NBA Jam was ported to just about anything and everything, but most ports were watered down from the original arcade version. The Saturn version was one of the first to offer an almost exact replica of the arcade experience. Sprite sizes and scaling matched the arcade, along with animations. The sound was kicked up a notch, and the announcer became more clear and had more of that stadium announcer sound. The Saturn version boasted slightly bigger sprites and crowd detail and animation than the PS1 counterpart. In my opinion, this is the best version of NBA Jam Tournament Edition on the 32-bit consoles.
Here's the tip. Hardaway for two. From long range. Is it the shoes? Hardaway. Rodman.
I really debated putting a racing game on this list, and really the Saturn had a handful of great racing titles, so I chose F1 Championship because it was closer to a sports title than the arcade racing games on the Sega Saturn. So, since F1 Championship gives you the ability to race as real people and real cars at real locations, this one makes the list. While it certainly is not the best racing title on the Saturn, it does a great job representing the many locations you can choose from, and plays more like a simulation racing game, much like Forza Motorsports does of this era. The game was made by Sega and feels more like a precursor to Flag on the Sega Dreamcast. If you're a fan of these types of racing games, you must give it a try. From graphics to gameplay and sound, this one is sure to make every Sega fan smile. Decathlete was an Olympic-style arcade game developed by Sega for the arcade and ported to Sega Saturn in 1996. As a kid, I was a big fan of Track and Field by Konami on the NES, and this felt like a newer version of that game. Graphically, it's a beautiful and honestly one of the best looking polygonal games on the Sega Saturn. The game lets you play in either a decathlon or arcade mode while competing against other countries in games like 40-yard dash, long jump, pole jump, shot put, and more. I still go back to this one occasionally when I want to kill some time with my Saturn. The difficulty of this game will also keep you coming back, as it is no walk in the park.
Course number 1. Brick Blade, USA. Course number 2. Semi. On your mark, get set. Get set. Foul.
No! It's not over yet.
While this one isn't considered one of the best soccer games by many, football for my European friends, I feel like Worldwide Soccer Victory Goal Edition has the perfect Sega Sports feeling that was brought over from the previous generation. As far as gameplay, I honestly believe nothing has this game beat in the soccer category on the Sega Saturn. While other games like FIFA 98 have much better graphics and announcers, I still feel as though Worldwide Soccer has the best and most responsive gameplay out of all of them. Graphically, it's not great, but it has a neat look to it, as it was an early launch title for the Saturn. At the time, honestly, I thought the game looked amazing. Oh, and it has an absolute killer soundtrack that will leave you humming in the shower hours later.
Nice play.
It's no secret Sega Sports dropped the ball when it came to football on the Sega Saturn. NFL Football 97 was an absolute trash can of a sports title. Thankfully, us Sega fans finally got a Madden game that came a little too late on the Sega Saturn. Madden NFL 98 is honestly the only NFL football game worth playing on the Saturn, but it's also one of the best ports of Madden 98 of that generation. This game was made for everything, including the last installation of the franchise on the Sega Genesis. This one held up well against the PS1 version. Presentation, it was an A+, and graphically, the best looking football game on the Saturn.
Bonio gets set to kick it off. So it's now 1st and 10 at the 38. Reed makes the catch for a gain of 17. Incomplete.
I really wanted to put NHL 97 on my list for my hockey pick. Growing up, this was my favorite hockey game on the Saturn. I really enjoyed the music and presentation of this one, and it had some kick-ass title music. But it's far from the best hockey game and loses in many categories when picking these. So NHL All-Stars 98 goes in as the best hockey game for the Sega Saturn. This was developed by Radical Entertainment and published by Sega Sports. I couldn't think of a single category where this one didn't take the crown. Gameplay is solid, responsive, and controls are easy to grasp. Presentation matches up with my favorite hockey games of the later years on the PS1. And graphically, it's the best looking hockey game on the Saturn. The Saturn surprisingly has many hockey titles to choose from. However, if you're going to pick one, it should definitely be NHL All-Stars 98. World Series Baseball 98 by Blue Sky Software and Sega is another example of a little too late when it comes to great sports games on the Saturn. By 98, a lot of us had already given up on the Saturn and moved on to PlayStation. First World Series Baseball game on the Sega Saturn was pretty bad. It used digitized graphics and the 3D rendered stadiums looked awful. But World Series Baseball 98 was a whole new game, new engine, and was right up there with sports titles like MLB 98 on the PlayStation.
We're about ready to play ball. Now batting, Lenny nails Dykstra. Inside. They're empty. Pugsley Jeffrey. He pulls it. Nice job. In the middle of the first inning, the Phillies have yet to score. Now batting, Kenny Lofton.
By the time I started playing basketball games on the 32-bit systems, I was playing them on PlayStation, so it was pretty hard to go back and find a basketball game that held up to the likes of games like March Madness 2001 on the PlayStation. NBA Action 98, developed by Visual Concepts and published by Sega Sports, is the one that can hold up against the best of them. Presentation is off the chart on this one, and gameplay is easy to grasp even when jumping right into it. You can dunk, call for alley-oops, and more. The game is a lot of fun. Graphically, it's another full polygonal sports game that is done right on the Sega Saturn.
Starting for the Utah Jazz. At point guard, number 12, John Stockton. Longley gets the tip. Rodman blows the layup. Nice play. Harper with a steal. He fires a 2. Sent back airmail, special delivery.
Well guys, there you have it. My top sports games on the Sega Saturn. Are there any you think I missed? What were some of your favorite sports games on the Saturn? Let me know in the comments section below. If you like this video and it's your first time here, subscribe and stick around for a while. If you want to support the channel further, become a channel member. Channel members get behind the scenes looks on how more detailed videos like this are made, along with access to member only live streams. Well, I hope you enjoyed this video. Do you even Sega Sports, bro? I'm the RetroBro. I'll see you on the next video.